Welcome to Marathon Canoe Racing and the biggest canoe race weekend in North America. Hi, I'm Larry LaQuarrie, and with me is Tana Fries at the 1993 General Clinton Canoe Regatta Weekend. This is the 31st running of the General Clinton, and we have one big weekend of racing in store for you.
Larry, every year on Memorial Day weekend here in upstate New York, from Cooperstown to Bainbridge, the big excitement is the regatta. In actuality, though, there are a number of races for all different ages and abilities. The biggest race and the finale of this whole weekend is a real marathon, a 70-mile race that's a true test of physical and mental stamina, strength, technique, and strategy. A fitting cap to a weekend of races that range from entry-level to world-class competition.
Tana, what is a canoe marathon? I know that a running marathon is 26 miles long. How long is a canoe marathon?
Well, Larry, a marathon canoe race is more a style or type of racing than a particular distance. Distances can range from 10 miles to over 100 miles, but the average is probably around 15 to 20. The General Clinton is one of the longest and toughest.
Other than the fact that it's 70 miles long, is there anything else that makes it tough?
Yes, the fact that this race comes so early in the season when many racers haven't had enough time to get in all of the training they really need. Also this year, the water is especially low.
Does that really have much of an effect?
Absolutely. This race begins in deep water on Lake Otsego in Cooperstown, and within 1 mile goes into the Susquehanna River for the rest of the race. The water level in the river determines the speed of the current and makes a major difference in times.
So, we'll have 69.5 miles of low, slow water. Is there anything else to make the situation difficult, Tana?
Yes, the weatherman is predicting rainy and windy conditions with the wind coming out of the southwest or right in the racers' faces. A strong headwind combined with rain could make conditions very difficult.
Well, Tana, we'll just have to hope for the best. Could there be enough rain to bring the water levels up?
It's rather doubtful. The rain would have to begin many hours before the race to have enough runoff to affect water levels.
Tana, what about those other races you mentioned? What are they like?
On Friday, we had races called the Generation Gap. These races typically have one youth paddler, and the other paddler must be at least 14 years older. This is designed to get kids into the sport without making them have to go in a long event. This Generation Gap race is 4 miles long and is a big hit with the racers.
This is the first year a whole family's doing the race.
On Saturday, we had the triathlon. In this version of triathlon, the events are run, bike, and canoe. There are teams comprised of one runner, one biker, and a two-person canoe team, where the racers tag the next member of their team. There's also an Ironman and Ironwoman class, where one racer competes in all 3 events.
It was really fun. It's always challenging coming off a winter racing season. I'm primarily a cross-country skier, and I really enjoy getting back into multi-sport events like this. And it's been fun to travel all over the country and paddle on a lot of different rivers.
Throughout Saturday and Sunday of Regatta Weekend, there are a number of other races, Boy Scout and Girl Scout races, a solo 18-mile race, and the very popular relay races. The Grand Prix relay is 35 miles long with 5 pairs of paddlers making up each team. Canoeists start with the sterns of their boats touching the shore, and when the starter's gun goes off, pandemonium breaks loose. This contest has mostly recreational canoeists racing, with team changes made on the fly.
Is this as serious as the marathon, Tana?
To the racers and their fans and families, it's very serious, with very few exceptions. Everyone who competes in any race this weekend is a very serious competitor in his or her own right. These racers get tired and sore and blistered and cramped just like the elite paddlers in the 70-mile race.
At least they have good weather.
Yes, the weatherman is calling for rain and wind for tomorrow. Add that to the low water and tomorrow's race could have awful conditions.
Hi again, I'm Larry LaQuarrie with Tana Fries here in Cooperstown in the staging area of the 1993 General Clinton Canoe Regatta. We're at Lakefront Park on Lake Otsego. It's 7:35 in the morning, a little chilly and slightly overcast. The weatherman has threatened showers, but they would probably be too late to do anything about the low water levels in the river. The racers are getting ready for the big event, the 31st running of this race, or should I say ordeal. Preparations are being made, paddlers are getting their equipment ready. Tana, while we're waiting for the start of the pro class, tell us a little bit about the course.
Larry, the race begins out on the lake, a little less than a mile from the mouth of the Susquehanna River. Racers will begin this race at their fastest sprint pace in order to gain favorable position in the narrow river. In about another half mile, everyone must take their canoes out of the river and carry them around an impassable dam. That's the first of 4 portages. After that first portage, the course is very narrow and winding for the next 25 miles or so. In the city of Oneonta, at about the halfway point, the river gets wide and shallow. That's when the going gets very tough. The miles seem to just drag on from that point. In the village of Unadilla, there is an old broken dam that presents some mild rapids, but it's basically wide, slow water for the entire second half of the race.
In the last 2 hours, we've had 4 classes start, and they're already on their way down the river. The recreational class started at 6 when it was barely light. The C1, or solo amateur class, started at 6:30 and made it cleanly through the first portage. Tana, where did they get the term C1?
C1 as in one person in a canoe. A K1 is a one-person kayak. A C2 is a two-person canoe. In this race, there are both amateur and professional classes for C1 and C2.
How long does this race usually last?
Depending on conditions, the winning time can be anywhere from just under 7 hours to 9 hours. Some of the less competitive participants in recreational boats might be out on the course as long as 12 hours.
Okay, Tana, we're standing on an overpass before the spot where the racers will carry around a dam, the portage. What can we expect to see?
The C2 amateur class, also called competition cruising, is approaching at a pretty good pace. That appears to be Scott White and Ed Curley in the lead. Ed is a past C2 amateur winner, although with a different partner. Nobody should be pacing themselves at this point. The goal right now is to get to and over this first portage in the best position you can. When they reach the shore here, the first 30 or 40 teams will dash out of the water and carry their boats to the other side of the dam. They want to get back in and get back up to speed as quickly as possible.
On the other side of the portage, they just run right into the water to start again. I think this is the middle of the C2 amateur class, so they're perhaps not rushing as much as the leaders. There are even some teams whose objective is to just finish and have a good time. Okay, we're back here at the starting point out on Lake Otsego with the pro class lining up. Due to some controversy over sloppy starts and possible false starts in the past, the officials have instituted an actual rope for the canoes to line up on. The gun should go off momentarily. But wait, what's this, a false start? Tana, it looks like there's some confusion here. The starter is calling everyone back, but no one seems to be coming.
I think they're afraid that if they turn around and no one else does, they'll lose out. As a result, they're off. I think once everyone realizes what's happening, they'll sprint just like all the rest.
Well, Tana, as the teams approach the mouth of the river, can you tell us anything about the racers?
The favorites are Serge Corbin of Quebec with his partner Solomon Carrier from Saskatchewan. Serge has entered this race 15 times before and won each time. That's Serge in the white jersey in the boat on the extreme right with Solomon in the stern. The two muscular guys in the white tank tops are Bob Rapant in the bow and Bob McDowell in the stern. The other team in the front pack, one from the right, is Calvin Hassel and Bruce Barton. Each one of these lead teams consists of at least one past United States Canoe Association national champion. All 4 teams should be in contention today. Of course, there are other teams that are unknown quantities, like the next boat, Bill Tarango and Jeff Kolka, both from Michigan.
Tana, I noticed some women's pairs and mixed teams. Obviously, this race isn't just for men.
No, there are quite a few mixed and women's teams, although men are in the majority.
It's only a few minutes into the race, and look how far they're spaced apart already. Tana, is it best to be in the lead at this point in the race?
Well, coming out of the lake, you don't want to be way back in the pack. The waves and turbulence created by the boats ahead of you cause a lot of resistance. You don't have to be in the lead, but it's helpful to be somewhere up front.
Is there any advantage to being close behind another boat, like drafting and bicycle racing or auto racing?
Oh, definitely. As a canoe moves through the water at race pace, it generates a wake with a succession of waves created. If a following canoe gets into the right position with its stern being lifted and pushed by one of those waves, it can get an added boost. This wake riding is an essential part of race strategy. Serge Corbin and Solomon Carrier may not even try to break from the pack in its helpful wakes until the second half of the race.
Tana, here at the bottom, the lower end of the first portage, I see that the pros are faster and smoother than the other classes.
It is very important to make efficient transitions from the water to the portage and then back to paddling and getting up to cruising speed. Here we are, about 40 minutes and 5 miles into the pro race in a village called Index. Some teams get their first pit stop here, but most will take advantage of the fast water to go through as quickly as they can. That's Corbin and Carrier in the lead, looking smooth. With Hassel and Barton close behind. Third is Coca and Tarango. You can see that their paddles aren't going as deep as they should because they're hitting bottom. It's really shallow here now. Here's Rapant and McDowell. And this is Al Redquist and Tim Trebold.
They are moving well, Tana.
Behind them is the team of Bob Zavaro and Randy Drake, also looking smooth.
Tana, let's watch as a few more pro teams come through the fast water. Here's the first place mixed team of Bill Schmitz and Lynn Whitty, followed by Kathy and Dave Jensen in second. This is Carl Normandin and Roberta Shapiro. And Tom Cannon and Connie Barton Cannon. We're just a few minutes downstream from Index, and here come the pros. Corbin and Carrier in the lead, Hassel and Barton riding their wake. Kolka and Tarango are a close third. Bob Rapant and Bob McDowell still looking good in fourth. Rudquist and Trebold alone out in fifth. Tana, shouldn't they and this next team of Zavril and Drake be trying to get up onto another team's wake?
Yes, usually that's the case, unless the effort they have to expend to get there doesn't justify it. They're moving well now, and they'll be able to move up onto another boat's wake when some team slows down for a pit stop.
We've got some spectators and support crew shouting directions from this bridge in the background here. And here we have the top four mixed teams fairly close together.
Now we're at the Meadows Bridge, sometimes called the Green Bridge. Here comes Serge Corbin and Solomon Carrier making a pit stop on the fly.
Wow, they didn't stop at all. They hardly even slowed down.
That's the way you want to do it. Behind them are Hassel and Barton. With Coca and Tarango in third. Here come the two Bobs, Rapant and McDowell. Al Rudquist and Tim Trebold still in fifth. And here come Bob Zavaro and Randy Drake. Bob Zavaro, by the way, is the maker of most of these bench shaft racing paddles you see everyone using.
There on the right is the first place women's team of Fries and Capon. Although the viewers may not be able to notice it, it's become somewhat more overcast and it's threatening to rain at this point. It's beginning to get a little breezy too. Okay, right now we're at a place they call the Oxbow, and for obvious reasons, we're pretty high up above the race course and started to get quite windy. This turn will give you an idea how twisty and windy this upper portion of the course can be.
That's Randy Drake and Bob Zavaro riding the wake of Al Rudquist and Tim Trebold right around the turn. As you can see, the turn is almost 180 degrees, and Drake and Zavaro are not using nearly as much energy to turn their boat as Rudquist and Trebold are.
You can see all the canoes after them trying to do the same thing. It looks like the lead in the mixed class has changed quite a bit. That's Kathy and Dave Jensen in the lead, with Tom and Connie Cannon riding them closely. Not far behind are Schmitz and Whitty and Normandin and Shapiro. These last two boats don't seem to be in succession. Does that mean they're not wake riding?
No, besides the wake that's created behind the boat, one is also created on the side. Shapiro and Normandin are doing what's called side waking. That's the best place to ride if you intend to try to overtake a boat so you don't have to come from so far behind.
We're looking down from the Milford Bridge now, where there's quite a lot of pit stop activity.
Larry, pit stops are when the racers get their drinks and food supplies replenished by support crews. The aim is to service the paddlers as quickly and smoothly as possible.
That's Hassel and Barton in the lead now, with Serge and Solomon riding closely, Kolka and Tarango in third. and Rapant McDowell in fourth.
Here you can see them just below the bridge, looking strong and fresh still. We're about 17 miles into the race, a little under 1/4 of the way, so they should be pretty fresh.
Here comes the next pack. Rudquist and Treebowl still pulling Zarvel and Drake. Even though they're in 5th and 6th, they have plenty of distance between them and the next pack, it looks like.
They're coming under the bridge now, and Treebowl just tossed out his drink jug. Watch how smooth they do their pit.
They did stop paddling for a few seconds, but I guess it's worth it to get fresh drinks and not have to make 2 pit stops, 1 for each paddler.
That's true, Larry. It's something everyone has to do. So the smoother and faster you can do it, the better off you are. Later on, at some of the portages, you'll see teams get pitted when they have to stop and get out anyway. It's all very fast and efficient. I can't say enough good things about the value of a good and dedicated pit crew. In the General Clinton, at least, they are the unsung heroes of the day. Very often they are spouses or friends who are willing to get cold and wet and muddy, all for their champions.
There's a creative pit for you. The fans seem to love it too. Tana, we're in the village of Portlandville now. There go some of the C1 pros heading for Goodyear Lake. It's not a true lake, but a section of the river that's been widened by the construction of a dam. There are 3 miles of wide open water between here and Goodyear Portage. That's a creative pit stop. And that one looks like force feeding.
You can see how tightly bunched up the leading pack of pros are. They're all trying to get to the portage first, a definite advantage. Their goal is to get ahead of their competition here without blowing their energy reserves. Even though the portage will only take 5 or 6 minutes, it can be very draining. Let's go to our camera at the start of the portage.
All right, Tana, here you have the leading C1 pro, Bill Rogers Jr., a local favorite. He seems to be taking a sweet time. I guess because he has enough of a lead so he doesn't have to push himself too much. He almost seems casual enough for a quick interview. That's Mike Kinsella, another local racer, and Jeff Rankinen from Pennsylvania. This next team is interesting. That's Rick Olson, who has done this race at least 15 times, racing in the amateur class with his 9-year-old son, David. Here come the pros. Now you'll see smooth. That's Serge and Solomon in the lead, Hassel and Barton to the right of them in 3rd, and Rudquist and Treebowl to the right in 2nd. Very clean, hardly any time lost in the transition from water to land. That's Rapant and McDowell in 4th, that they're calling Bubba, and Zarvel and Drake on their heels, with Kolka and Tarango close behind. It's almost like a pack of wake riders here, Tana. The top 6 boats are all within reach of each other. Here are some of the mixed teams, and a senior team of Ron Estes and Bob Zuber from Massachusetts.
Down here at the far end of the portage, we have the lead C1 pros. Here comes Bill Rogers, Mike Kinsella, and Jeff Rankinen, all huffing and puffing. Here's a paddler having a tough time with his momentum. Here comes Rick Olson encouraging David all the way. Here come the pros. Let's fall in behind them. It looks like Serge and Solomon got away first as usual. In the meantime, it started raining pretty hard now. There's the first place mixed team, Connie and Tom Cannon, followed by the 2nd and 3rd place teams, Kathy and Dave Jensen, and Normandin and Shapiro. And this is the first place women's team, Fries and Capon. They're looking pretty smooth despite the rain.
I would venture to guess that every racer who hasn't changed clothes in the last 15 minutes is soaked to the skin by now. The cold and wet will take a toll in the next few hours, no matter how well trained the paddlers are. Just downstream about 5 minutes, there's a short cut with tricky currents at the end. Let's go there now.
We're high up on an overpass on Route 28, looking down on the paddlers as they come out of a so-called shortcut. If they're not careful today, they'll lose a lot of time swamping.
Oh, look there, you were right. There's a C1 who learned that lesson the hard way. I believe he's an amateur, but I can't quite make out who it is. He'll have to drag his boat to shore and get going as quickly as he can. Tough break, and the race isn't even half over yet. Here come Serge and Solomon negotiating through the shallows and the traffic. They don't look the least bit tired. That's Calvin Hassel and Bruce Barton in 2nd. It looks like Zarvel and Drake have moved up to 3rd, just passing that aluminum wreck boat, with Bubba Rapant and Bob McDowell passing on the other side. You can see Rapant and McDowell are getting onto Zarvel and Drake's wake here. Here come some other pros, and is it ever raining hard now? Might as well get resupplied while you're dragging in the shallows here. A little helpful directing by someone else's pit crew. That's the first place mixed team of Cannon and Cannon. Now that's hard work, the first place aluminum wreck boat.
Here we are at the Oneonta Portage, about 38 miles into the race. It's been raining off and on for quite a while now. There you see a wreck team taking off at a rather leisurely pace. Here comes Jeff Rankinen, who's taken over first place in the C1 Pro class, but not by much. Bill Rogers is right behind. There's Bill Rogers Sr. pitting for Bill Jr. Bill Sr. has done this race more than 12 times before. An experienced racer is really a valuable pit person.
Tana, here comes Al Rudquist and Tim Trebold. That's Serge and Solomon getting pitted and taking off. They were the first pro team through the Portage. This is Tarongo and Kolka, followed by Rapant and McDowell. Tana, with the way these teams seem to fly by, you'd think these boats were weightless. How much do they weigh?
Between the 25 to 30 pounds for the boats themselves and all the equipment, these teams are carrying about 40 pounds. Remember, though, that they train for at least 100 hours in the 2 or 3 months leading up to the race, and part of that training involves portage practice. Also, many paddlers lift weights, run, and cross-country ski in the off-season.
We've moved down to the first bridge in Oneonta below the Portage. Serge and Solomon have made their move and are solidly in first place now. Behind them are Rudquist and Trebold, with Hassel and Barton side-waking them. Just behind them is a team of Kolka and Tarongo. Just now they're passing an aluminum wreck boat.
Here come the lead C1 pros. Bill Rogers has retaken the lead, but Jeff Rankinen is riding him very closely. Now here come McDowell and Rapant. It looks like they stopped for warmer, drier clothes. They're followed closely by Bob Zaverill and Randy Drake, who are making good use of a wake. Another creative pit. Although only 50% effective, oh well, better luck at the next bridge.
We're a little farther down now at Otsego. Serge and Solomon have taken a commanding lead, and it looks like they are driven at this point. Maybe they're just in a hurry to get some warm, dry clothes, but they look awesome now. They must have a 5-minute lead here. Okay, we're in the village of Otsego at a New York State public launching ramp, a popular viewing spot. And that Serge and Solomon have already come through with about a 6-minute lead.
Here comes the next pack with Rudquist and Trebold on the left, Hassel and Barton in the middle, and Kolka and Tarongo still holding tight on the right. No one wants to break and let the others ride them at this point, so it's something of a game of who's going to blink first. You have to stay vigilant in this kind of situation because if a team does break before you can respond and gets away from you, you have to expend far too much energy to catch up again. They're all just kind of side-waking each other right now. Here comes Serge and Solomon looking smooth. That efficient stroke is what makes him the best in the sport.
Tom and Connie Cannon in first place in the mixed division have taken a commanding lead. Look at that determination.
Now we're in Unadilla at the site of an old broken dam with about 11 miles to go. Corbin and Carrier have a considerable lead here and still look fresh. Watch them just accelerate through the fast water. I've seen novices panic and swim here, usually because of indecision or hesitation, but the pros like it for the extra boost it gives them. And here's Kolka and Tarongo. They've moved into what looks like a secure second place. Well, back are Barton and Hassel, and almost another minute behind them are Rudquist and Trebold in fourth. Zaverill and Drake are a bit behind them, and Rapant and McDowell trailing them.
Tana, this is what I meant by novices having a bit of a tough time here. This team is fortunate their hesitation didn't cause them to upset and swim. Here's Bill Rogers, the lead C1 pro, making the most of the fast water. Tana, his C1 looks awfully long. How long is it?
United States Canoe Association specifications allow boats to be 18.5 feet long. Generally speaking, the longer a boat, the faster it will go. So everyone wants to have an 18.5-foot long boat.
Okay, here we are at the finish line, almost 10 hours since the start of the recreation class, and here comes the first boat over the line today.
Larry, they won in a boat that Bob Rogers built. He has been racing here for years, but I believe this is the first time he's ever taken a first in any class. Let's hear what he has to say about the day.
Yeah, well, the lousy weather worked to our advantage because we're My partner is very powerful, and we got some very strong headwinds, and it actually helped us.
Here come the first place C2 amateurs, White and Curly. Do you think they're happy? I wonder how much of that elation is from winning and how much is from being able to just get out of this weather. Let's talk to them.
So how does it feel to be an amateur winner?
It feels fantastic.
You glad it's over?
Oh yeah.
You gonna do it again next year?
Who knows? That's a long way away.
Here's the first place aluminum recreational boat. These guys look happy to be done.
Well, do you feel as good as you look?
No, I can't look that good.
Oh, you look great, man.
Second place.
My partner looks good. Where is he?
So at what point did you think that you were never gonna make it?
At what point? At the beginning.
Here comes Serge Corbin and Solomon Carriere, the first place pro team, in a quite respectable time considering how adverse the conditions were. Despite the fact that they probably have a 10-minute lead, look at how hard they're going at it. They're real competitors. This is Serge's 16th win in this race in 16 tries.
And here are the pro winners getting congratulations.
In a very solid second place, Jeff Kolka and Bill Tarango crossed the finish line. Let's see if we can talk to them.
Yeah, I've been doing it a few years. So it's a good race you got out here. Some nicer days. Kind of got lucky again, getting away. I don't know, that shallow water seems to go good when you run a Hassel boat and just seems to take off.
Just coming into view is third place pro boat, Calvin Hassel and Bruce Barton.
Here's the first place C1 pro finisher, Bill Rogers. Boy, is he happy.
I've been racing canoes for 12 years. And why do you do it? Thrill of competition. Yes, that's why I do it.
The husband and wife team of Connie and Tom Cannon held off the competition to finish in a solid first place in the mixed pro division.
Most of the top places have been decided by this time, yet all the racers are still pushing hard to finish with the best possible time. Whether they finished first, or 31st, or 61st, all of these competitors gave this race their best effort. Today's conditions have made racing especially difficult with the shallow water, rain, and wind. It is a tribute to everyone who finished today that they will be remembered for completing one of the most challenging 70-milers ever.
The men and women and youngsters participating in all of this weekend's paddling events showed true perseverance and dedication to the sport of canoe racing. They came to enjoy the competition and camaraderie of the weekend's events, and a great time was had by all.